What's up, guys? I don't know what to make about this. I really don't, but it's just information I'm passing on to you. There are a lot of questions. Since when do banks just close? Especially for stuff like this. But I mean, especially big banks. I mean, just look at this. Whoa, there are no words. Bank of America, among other banks, not just Bank of America, but other banks, will be closing in the areas of Jade Helm starting June 16th. This might possibly support Suzanne Posel's work. I don't know what she's done. I probably need to look into it. Her theory is that they are finally going to declare a virus in all the banks and tell you something like on Monday you'll be fine. She said when they say that you have 72 hours until martial law. This might just be a drill, folks, but the real thing is coming to get ready. And just like the WalMarts. I told y'all in earlier videos back in my day, I used to be electrical foreman for a very, very, very large electrical company here in Tennessee. And we had contracts not with Walmart, but with Sam's, which is basically the same thing. And in these contracts, if you don't meet certain deadlines or whatever, meaning get in and get out, you'll be fined. And they have Sam's had very strict policies like because they're not open 24 hours a day, you would have to start working at 10 o'clock at night and you would have to be done and out by 5 or 6 in the morning. And on top of that, man, you had to be done quick. They didn't play around. And for all these Walmarts to be shut down for plumbing, give me a break. And here's another thing. It ain't like Walmarts are heavily needed of plumbing. I understand they have plumbing, but electrical was a big issue in Walmart, not plumbing. But anyway, but look at this. Many banks in Calexico, California are shut down on June 16th. And it says Calexico is the exact same place where Jade Helm has labeled them as hostile. Um, anyway, I don't know. What do y'all think about this? This whole thing, man, just stinks. I have more questions about Jade Helm than answers. So, but here you go.
Your article titled U.S. Army Tactical Manuals Describe How to Control Domestic Insurrection. Why don't you let people know why you wrote that and what it means?
I wrote that because there's a bunch of articles that have come out. It started with Rex 84, and it's turned into a bunch of manuals and a bunch of executive orders that put in place martial law. And the military likes to perform war games, so that's why we're seeing military on the streets practicing. They are actually practicing. The tanks that we see on the streets and the National Guard patrolling neighborhoods and the practices that they're doing with our local police department, this is all in preparation for martial law, so that when they do actually lock down the country, they've got everything secured.
People that don't run in these circles and to whom this information is new, Suzanne, they love to say that we're all conspiracy tinfoil hat wearing nuts because we still live in a republic. But I think what we're starting to see, for anybody who is objective at all, is we're seeing a totalitarian system now unveil itself. And ever since essentially 9/11 happened, it's been more and more of these draconian measures that are leading us right down the road to martial law. What do you think will be the cause of the declaration of martial law? Will it be a financial collapse or something altogether different? We've seen a lot of false flags. What do you think would be the cause of martial law?
Well, I had written an article earlier this week from a U.S. Marine informant and also a Deutsche Bank informant. And in 2008, we should have collapsed. We should have gone the way of Greece. The only reason why we didn't was because the global elite and the banking cartels put it off on the Eurozone and collapsed the Eurozone in order to gain sovereign debt. Sovereign debt is when you actually own the physical land. You don't just own the buildings, you don't just own the people and the money. They're extracting wealth so that the only thing that the governments will have left to give them is the actual land that they own. While they're doing this, they're amassing this wealth in order to redirect it toward martial law endeavor, and not just in America, but globally. They want to lock down every country and force us into global governance, eventually force us into a global reserve currency that is like the Bancor that the IMF has been pushing. So in 2008, when Hank Paulson went to the Congress and said that they had to bail out the banks for $700 billion or martial law would be declared, they weren't lying. What they did with the mortgage-backed security scheme was they sold it to countries like China. And when China realized that they had been taken and that they weren't going to get their money, they said, well, we don't mind, we'll just take the property because it says here in our contract that if you can't pay us the money, we can get the property. And the central bankers freaked out. They couldn't have the Chinese on our land. You know, it would be like you wake up in the morning to go to get your newspaper, and you open your front door, and there's some Chinese people standing on your front lawn because they own your house and your property, and you don't realize it yet, but you've been foreclosed on. So in order to stop that, they demanded from the Congress that they give them the $700 billion bailout, and the Congress passed it. The first paper wasn't. It was like 15 pages, and the next one was over 1,000 pages long, and they went ahead and passed that, and they gave this money to the Chinese. But the Chinese since then have been backing their currency, their fiat currency, in gold. And China's been doing this, India's been doing this, and Russia's been doing this. If you go back in history, the reason why we went after Gaddafi was because he was presenting the dinar, which was a gold-backed currency that he was getting together with other countries like in Africa. He was going to subvert the global reserve currency, which is the U.S. dollar, and destroy its complete value by backing it with gold, because the central bankers haven't dealt in gold since 1934. So in order to avoid all of this, the central bankers are going after Iran right now, and that's what this war is about, to try and stop India and China and Russia from buying Iranian oil with gold. Because if they destroy the global reserve currency, which is the U.S. dollar, then what we're going to have is we're going to wake up one morning and we're going to be like Greece. And that's going to cause complete panic in this country. So since they already set off the financial time bomb in the Eurozone, they know that it's just a matter of time before it hits our shores. So they're preparing for it. That's why we see all the movement on the streets. People are seeing tanks being moved in Burbank, California. They're seeing in their forested areas, they're seeing police, military, escorting them off the property. National forested lands. This is public land, supposedly. By the way, it's owned by UNESCO, and it's a World Heritage Site, so it's actually owned by the UN. But anyway, people are seeing military on their streets. In Anaheim, California, they announced that because of the protest, it was a state of emergency, which I feel is a code word for martial law. I think they're trying to beta test to see if they can go ahead and lock down the country by doing it incrementally through different stages, causing problems, problem, reaction, solution, causing problems in cities, and then go ahead and locking it down and seeing how it works, kind of like a war game. One thing I forgot to mention was through the Deutsche Bank informant, I was alerted to the idea that they're going to possibly create like an internet virus that would attack the banking system, like they're using Flame and Susnet. And there's a new cousin of these two that is going around Iran. Mm-hmm. And what they would do was, on a Friday afternoon, they would say, well, we have to shut down the banking system because there's a virus in all the banks. You won't be able to use your ATMs over the weekend, but on Monday morning you'll be fine. Well, if you hear of anything like that, you have 72 hours before they roll out martial law.
So wait a minute, Suzanne, you're saying that if you see anything like that in the news media or otherwise, you have 72 hours? Why don't you repeat that, help people understand what that means?
When they're going to roll out martial law, they think that when the financial collapse hits the shores of the United States, they have 72 hours. So with my Deutsche Bank informant and talks with other people in the alternative media, my contacts, I just think that it's possible that a scenario like this, I'm not saying that this will happen, but a scenario like this, and it would give you something to look for, a little red flag to look for. Let's say that the banks all say that there's a virus in all the banking systems, all of the banks, and they have to shut down, like on a Friday, We know that the Obama administration loves to do things on a Friday afternoon or when we're celebrating New Year's Eve. So Friday afternoon, they would say they're going to shut down the banks and get rid of this virus over the weekend. And on Monday morning, everything would be back up. Over the weekend, you wouldn't be able to use your ATM or pay any bills online, but everything will be fine on Monday morning. That is your red flag. You have 72 hours from that moment to do whatever you were planning on doing, get to wherever you were planning on getting to, hunker down whatever you were planning on hunkering down, because they're going to unroll martial law in 72 hours from that moment, whatever scenario they intend to unroll. And I believe that it has to do with the banks, because they're stealing money from us left and right. In fact, I've gotten reports from insiders that they're taking money out of private checking accounts. They're also stealing heirlooms. The Bank of America has stolen heirlooms out of people's safety deposit boxes and ship them from one coast to another, and then claim that they didn't know that it wasn't that it was this customer's property, and then they'll send it back, but they never do. They're trying to squeeze out as much money as possible. And with MF Global and John Corzine, that was a beta test to see if they could take secured customer funds and get away with it, and they did. They're coming for our private checking accounts next. They're looking for as much money as they can to fund this not only domestic but global police state. So like I said, if you hear of anything with the banking industry, and I personally think it might be a false flag with an internet virus or a virus in the banking systems as far as their computers go, then you have 72 hours from that time to go ahead and do what you were planning on doing.
Wow.